6 o'clock, first order of business is the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You approve the minutes of December 18th.
So moved.
Second, motion and second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody. Members reports, we'll start with Lindsay.
No, I just brought it up with the lights on the left-hand side of the road, in Main Street not being up, but it looks like there's already a solution for that when the sidewalks get them. That was okay. I had.
Good, Ron? Nope, nothing. Jackie?
No.
Kelsey?
The blinking school zone lights. Every morning when I'm driving in, I feel like they should be blinking and they're not, so I don't know if those are not working.
Well, weird, they were
or
blinking this morning.
what time do they typically blink at? I'm going through at like
I think-
7:55 and they're not blinking.
It should be.
Yeah, it's like very
It was
busy
Yeah,
there.
it's
They're
like 20
not
before they
blinking.
start, 20 like after, so like it's like a 2-minute window usually, I think.
I'll ask them to check the time.
Okay.
Yeah, that has a history of being off after the time change.
Good.
didn't follow that.
And nothing I could think of, so we'll jump right into the town manager's report.
All right, we'll start off with the fire department skid unit tank repair, that seemingly burst at sea as a result of overpressurization. The chief was looking to explore options for remedy, reach out to the manufacturer, Kimtech. And at the end of the conversation, it really boiled down to the fact that we can have the tank welded, up in Island Falls, that's the most cost-effective solution, and then, add a fill point to the tank to reduce the chances of overpressurizing again. In the course of those conversations the chief was having with Kimtech, one of his emails ended up across the desk of their president, who appreciated the fact that Todd was just matter of fact with them and said, probably our fault, stuff happens. And as a result of that, they sent a thank you note to the chief and said, we'd like to cut you a check for $750, A, for the loyalty, and B, for the fact that you own it, and we appreciate small fire departments, that are taking responsibility. So, as far as I know, that check is on its way. And they've also extended the offer for any small parts or pieces, rivets, et cetera, that we might need in reassembly. So good news there from Kimtech, and appreciate the chief pulling that together for us. Your shoreline zoning updates, that ordinance will go before the planning board tomorrow night. I expect that the draft will be approved and you'll review that on the 22nd, your next meeting. A component of that was the consultant costs for KV Cog to come in and do that, and the subdivision ordinance. It was trending in a way that it seemed like we were gonna go well over what they had estimated for budget, so I said, like, we're probably gonna avoid the contract, it hasn't been terribly productive. And they came back and said, look, we're gonna cap your cost for both of those at $3,500 no matter what, and we'll continue to work through issues with you, so that was encouraging there, so we'll continue on with the subdivision ordinance. But that will obviously be up for consideration at town meeting. We have a CD maturing in Scouting and Savings Bank next week, so I'm working on the rate and the term of that. They're right now about 5-month CD is what Scouting likes to offer, so ballpark of 4, that's everybody's price. Obviously, we like to leverage our accounts and get a little bit more than that, so waiting to hear back on that. Your lien maturity notices for unpaid 2022 taxes, those did go out. Your foreclosure date is February 3rd. And one of the things we've been kicking around, or I've been kicking around and make me mention at the last meeting was, should we waive the foreclosure until the costs accumulate to overwhelm the value of the property so that we don't have to become the real estate agents of these properties? The long and short of it is Maine Municipal says you might be able to do that, but in order to waive foreclosure of a property, you have to have a specific property go to town meeting and have town meeting waive that specific property. So doesn't. So we're just gonna end up moving forward with that, and then whatever doesn't get paid, we'll take ownership of and move forward with that. Your dog licenses are available, avoid that $25 late fee by finishing that before the end of the month. Trio software, that's in our budget, it's often talked about, it's not cheap, but they have us right where they want us. And the unfortunate thing for them and some of their mishaps was they sent a $2,000 incentive email to towns to upgrade from the old platform to the new platform. We upgraded to that platform 3 or 4 years ago. So I said, well, where's the good customer discount? And they said, ooh, sorry, we didn't intend to send you that email. We really apologize. So I didn't let it go. And so anyway, I had a call with their VP yesterday. The long and short of it was that he's expressed a willingness to freeze our rates for 5 years. The average rate increase is 8% on that software. So calculate that out, we're looking at an approximate savings over the course of like 5 years of 13,000. So not bad. Obviously, after the 5 years, we get caught up with the trend, but we'll take the savings that we can get in the short term. And take a little bit of that pain away if everything goes well. Monday the 20th is MLK Day, so we'll be closed here. The roadwork update, your large cross culvert on Upper Main Street was replaced this week. And it was a 2-day road closure. It's now 3. Upper Main Street to Winding Hill is expected to reopen tomorrow at 5 p.m. The Wild Hill Road project is out to bid. Those are due tomorrow. Will open at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And expect that we'll have a review of those bids for your consideration at your next meeting on award. The Mechanic Perkins Smithfield Road intersection project, that is moving forward and in the process of being designed. That's through the municipal partnership initiative with the state of Maine, where they pay 60%, we pay 40%. And the goal is to have that design complete and approved and then out to bid with a target project completion date of June 1st. So that's a really aggressive timeline, but obviously that's the timeline that we ideally want for it to be most effective. Town meeting, that's March 3rd. All your papers were due last week. And absentee ballots you can request now. We don't have the ballots because obviously there are some things in the air here. And then they'll have to be printed. So the first week of February, they'll actually become available, but you can request them now so that when they become available, we can get them to you. Your parking ban remains in effect. The Attorney General's interpretation of the school board statute. This is the back and forth with the school district. And Director Colomb, the school has been willing now to go to the Attorney General for the third-party interpretation, which is, you know, what everybody should be wanting at the end of the day. They had drafted a letter that our attorney worked over very well. And then we were able to convince the superintendent and the chair of the board that that was the letter that needed to go. They wanted to send it to the Commissioner of Education, who's not qualified in the least, to provide interpretation of statute. And also represents a bias in the opinion, and they were also willing to forego that. So it will go straight to the Attorney General's office with the Attorney General's opinion and nobody else's. And so we look forward to hearing back on that. We don't know a time frame on that, but that letter is expected to get the chair's signature tomorrow. The office hour adjustment for Thursday nights coming back to 4 o'clock. That's going to start the week of January 20th. The newsletter, the Bridge newsletter. Ideally would be in mailboxes the week of January 20th as well. If you have anything that you'd like to submit for a future newsletter, please reach out, whether it's general interest, something about your business organization, or anything like that. If you're willing to write or submit a picture, we would like to have it because it saves me a lot of work. Library trustees have moved their meeting back a week to the 30th at 3. Planning board will meet tomorrow. Your next meeting is the 22nd. TIF is scheduled for the 28th. The budget committee will meet the 21st. So we met last night. They actually worked themselves a little bit ahead of you, and they will meet the night before your next meeting in an effort to wrap things up so that you guys can put a bow on it on the 21st. And my plan is to be out of the office next week.
Yay.
Number 6, discussion action on January 8th, general warrant number 23.
I move to approve general warrant number 23 in the amount of $101,177.99.
Second. Motion and a second. In discussion?
Haley Ward engineer.
They're our primary engineer. They're overseeing, they oversaw the Father Isle Road project. They're working on Wilder Hill, but they're also managing our HUD funds that came from the federal government.
What about Lake Harlan Lodge for 25,000? What is?
That is the gap funding for the road. We wrote a check directly to them.
Okay. The only other one was, what project was that, the Dart excavation on what?
But our excavation, that was Father Isle Road.
Okay, all right.
They did Sandy River as well, but this was.
Okay. And I'm guessing the 7250 for the Stanley septic tank, is that for all of the porta potties?
Nope, that is hauling to Anson Madison from the sewer plant.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Anything else? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody. Number 7, there, discussion action on January 8th, general warrant number 1.
I move to approve general warrant number 1 in the amount of $33,134.36.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Why don't, like, we don't normally have two, like, what's,
Your the previous one was 2024.
okay, all right,
This is
okay,
2025.
all right. And then-
Norridgewock Farm, 2,500.
That was the motion, that was parking right?
Yep.
And we held off on that so that it could be accounted for properly with the grant.
Good, good. Anything else in the discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody. Public comment. Anything for public comment?
A question.
Go ahead.
So we got the letter, for number 9,
Yep,
discussion on road discontinuance. So does this letter allow us to be part of that discussion so you can
yes,
get information from the landowners?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't need to say everything I have to say in this 2 minutes right now.
No, ma'am. Perfect. Anything else for public comment? Seeing nothing, we'll dive into number 9. Discussion action on road discontinuance, 514 Madison Road.
Just a quick recap as to where we are today. This came to the select board from the road advisory committee seeking to discontinue the section of road unnamed. Provides access to 514 Madison Road, as was previously mentioned. The flow chart as to how it happens is in your packet. Pretty much it breaks off. Is every property accessible by another public way? If the answer is yes, then you take the avenue that we're on now. The answer is no, you take a different route, and the timing changes. So what happened was at the last meeting, the majority of the board voted to send this on the process. And it moves it closer to the townspeople voting one way or the other to discontinue the road. And as a part of that, we sent a notice to the only property owners, which are the Eastlers here tonight, the notice of the proposed discontinuance to have the initial discussion. If you elect to move forward, then you would then meet again in the future to review an order of discontinuance. We would finalize damages. If we get there, there's a list of DOT authorized contractors that come in and actually look at the property and determine if there's a shift in value or whatnot. And then that comes part of it too. If the road is discontinued, then there would be a payment if there is a depreciation in the value of the property. And then there's a formal public hearing, and we have to provide notice of that or whatnot. So
what does it cost us as a town to have that appraisal done by DOT about the land? Is there a cost associated with that, basically like research and assessment of the road?
So I would assume that there is a nominal fee. My guess is it would be in the ballpark of 500 to 1,000, but I can't speak to that. I don't want to overstep, but I caution after an extension of the last meeting, I would caution participating too deeply in this meeting.
I can still ask questions on the process of it to know what the cost is of researching something and the cost of continuation. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty fair question, whether I abstained or not. I still feel like it's something that myself and everyone that's watching this should know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, the board doesn't have anything directly. We'll dive in. Did you want an opportunity?
Yes, absolutely.
Please.
So first off, on the last meeting, that we watched on the video, to answer Kelsey's question, which was not answered. That was the letter the first time that we had heard of it. Yes, it was. So it was, oh, surprise, right? And then to answer Lindsay's question, you had asked Richard about, what the language was and the deal with the landowners, from years back. And what were we told about that? So if you want to know the deal, Jim's grandfather had owned that property for years. It was passed on to his dad, and then we now own it. So that land has been there for a long time. So he knows the history of that. So if you want to talk about that, like how that deal came about, how that agreement with the town came about.
58, there was a big flood.
The old road was washed out. Disconnecting. State came through. Made a deal with my grandfather. They get that land, he gets services to the old road. Yeah, and it has been a paperwork trail of sorts. That I've actually seen the folder, I did not read what was in it, but I've seen the folder. From the last town manager. And my father from the town manager before that. Okay, because over the years, the topic has come up. But it's never been acted upon in this manner. So with that said. There is a 63-year agreement. Of services to the old road.
And then another question I would like to have is like, you know, you're asking about cost, so what's the breakdown of the cost on the maintenance? Because, you know, you said at the beginning of the last discussion that the town maintains this road, gravels, plows, sands, ditches, maintains culverts for the exclusive benefit of us. Okay? There's a busted up culvert that's, you know, doesn't even drain, okay? There's never been a gravel put on that road. It's never been graded, okay? It does get plowed, typically the first storm of the winter when it's soft. So it all goes onto the lawn, okay? And then it gets sanded and plowed, you know, after that. Sometimes it, you know, if the truck doesn't come in on the top side and tries to go up the top side, then it gets dug up because they get stuck. That's happened before. So it's not like this is a pristine road that the town is maintaining for us, like you know, you made it sound like you're putting all kinds of money in us. What's the cost of it? Like, what's the breakdown on that? It takes them 5 minutes, they come in, they're out. I mean,
Not to speak for the road committee, but having attended their meeting. The road committee felt that any amount of money paid on an access for an individual home was a misappropriation of funds and that it merited going to voters for consideration to discontinue.
Okay, with that said. What, you handed out a map?
Yeah. It was approximate to show the location of the road.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I see it?
Sure.
Because I have states blueprint, I know they did.
I mean, this was just approximate. That's all it was. Was to show the approximate location of the access point.
what, for Google Maps?
Sort of looks like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually from our internal GIS.
The highlighted red?
Yeah.
Okay. That, I put there. Okay. That's a driveway. Private driveway. It does cross the old road. Like our other driveway. Okay, but. Where that comes down from the old road. Is the only driveway. When I did make it a loop. Joe was very happy, because now all he had to do was drive in and drive out. Before, they would go from the main road down 300, 400 feet, back up, plow down towards the stream, back up again, down the old road towards Madison, and then drive out.
So we're maintaining a section of your driveway. By looping in and around, we're now.
What has the town done to maintain that? Do you have a breakdown of costs
The
or
fact,
work orders?
it's, if they're plowing down one side and on the other, you just said that the southernmost side was a driveway that you installed. So the town shouldn't be plowing that if that's not the road. The
That
road is strictly for
was-
the other end.
Joe's decision
So.
to make it easier about liability backing up. Okay, I mean,
So
he's the one that decided that's what.
Okay,
was gonna
then,
happen.
all valid, Ed. What are you getting to? What is the actual? chunk
Well,
of
you're
road?
saying that there's approximately a 500 foot. Okay?
Mhm.
But without my driveway there, that road goes straight into the woods.
Yeah.
Another 1,000 feet down the road.
If not more,
Yeah. And on this blueprint, it shows it.
Public road goes
The old,
into the woods.
the old road, yeah, the old road runs. Quite
And
a,
we don't
quite a
maintain
length.
that.
We don't need any of it.
No, we don't maintain the part. that
No,
goes-
no,
it's
there's
all grown up,
bridges in there.
half washed out where they
Right.
built the new road. Okay, there is no exit. The driveway coming down. If you'd like to,
Oh, yeah, no, yes, yeah. Are you for, do you, you want the town to keep the road there, or you don't want the road there? I'm not really sure where you stand on this.
the road is not a town road. There's only one access to it, which is what the deal was with the town, services to the old road. And it's been going on for 63 years.
Trying to clarify the misinformation that you've gotten from Richard. Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
it
not
seems to
that,
be pretty vague on what it is. I mean, you have this here and that's, thank you. But I think in all of it, we're getting to, why would the town want to maintain this chunk of road anymore? Regardless of whether it's 10 feet
They-
long or a mile long.
They
What-
said they would. They made a deal.
Is
because
that
the-
deal in writing somewhere? Is it a
Yeah.
lifetime? I mean, is it 100 years?
Right.
Nobody knows. I guess that's the.
That's great, because I've seen the folder. I had a discussion with previous town manager.
But
My
is
father
a folder a
also-
legal document though that shows what?
But now,
I've gone up and down this office.
That's all I'm asking is usually we have to follow some sort of legal paperwork. And if there isn't one, if it was a handshake deal 63 years ago, how do we know how that goes at this point?
I think furthermore, the issue is that it wasn't a town agreement. If anything, it was informal because it was a state taking. It was not a town taking, this was a state taking when the road moved. That was a deal with the state of Maine. So if
it
it was a maintenance
was a
agreement, it
deal
was a
my
handshake.
grandfather made. Because they were gonna pay for the land.
I mean, it must have
But
been,
he's like, I don't want it. I want services down to the old road.
why would we have ever started plowing it if? Or
No.
maintaining it if it,
But it could have been a state thing and they just did it. Well, that's the thing is it should have been something in writing.
Right.
If it was meant to be forever,
what do you mean state thing?
the state of Maine versus the town.
But the state's never plowed or done anything to it, though. It's always been the town, hasn't it?
yeah, it's always been the town. It's been a, like you said, a 60-year agreement.
There's gotta be something.
There are other,
something
there are other agreements
That's
in
what
this
I'm asking.
town
It should be
Well,
something.
that
paper,
people have
some-
paid.
What is the,
for other-
what benefit do you guys gain by having the town have this there?
I die next week, that road gets plowed out in case of emergencies.
The road though.
That loop. Or, I mean, if you don't wanna plow the loop, I mean. Getting back to it, I put more into that. Than the town has. I've dusted it a few times over. But it gets plowed up. But yes, it's soft in the spring. Okay? Now. You talk about culvert work. But do you have a work order to prove all this?
That's no different than you saying, do you have documents to prove that you made this agreement with the state?
There, I've
Right.
seen the folder, Matt.
But, okay, in
So
my
has
time,
my
I've
father.
never seen it. I've only heard this discussed twice, this time and once prior, when we originally started using it as a turnaround. Because in my time on the board, it's only ever been a truck turnaround. Since I've been on this board, our trucks have only ever used it to turn around in. Since I've been here, in the one time that we talked about it 7 or 8 years ago. And like I said, and Joe doesn't work here now anymore. So it's just, I don't see where the town has any benefit in this road, and I don't really see where you have any benefit, other than it being plowed, but we have to plow across your driveway and into your driveway to do it.
Yep.
Which is just,
But you don't have
we
to,
wouldn't do that anywhere.
you don't have to, but then can you plow a hazard?
What do you mean plow a hazard?
Bang somebody in by just going straight in and stopping? Making it impossible?
You would say no, right? But clearly we wouldn't plow someone in.
I already know the answer, because I.
Of course you do, yeah, I struggle to see where the town has any
I got in
interest.
touch with the state,
I think if you can find the documents that are for that agreement,
they no longer exist.
so that would be
Couldn't
my
find them.
conundrum there. I can't just take your word for it. And we've got a committee that's basically looked at this road and deemed it in the town's best interest to discontinue it.
Does the town do any other type like this for any other property? At all?
The only thing that comes close to it are turnaround easements. And we have those at the end of various roads, like George Street is a small dead end street. And we have a mapped out section with area that there's the no build zone. And then those are all filed with the registry of deeds. There was one down on Martin Stream Road at the town line. Anywhere we go out, because if we can't put money on public property, on private property.
Right.
It's illegal. So in order for us to be able to put gravel on a turnaround, we have to have a deeded easement
Mhm.
to be able to do that. Those are the only places where we infringe on private property with public funds. There's no other road in town that provides access to one individual residence or one parcel of property.
So just to clarify. The road is not their property?
So it's their, because it's their driveway. It's not really a road.
No,
It's
it's
mostly
not.
just their driveway, a hooked piece.
It-
No, but like, if you were to look at like a tax, is that strip owned by the town or is it owned by them?
Oh, I don't, what does the tax map have it as?
The tax map has it owned by the town. Their parcel is bisected by the road.
So it is a legal
And that's the
road
way,
then?
that's the way that the deed was written.
But do you
The
mean,
deed was written from your grandfather,
Well, then that's the documentation then, isn't it?
that there's no responsibility for maintenance in any of that.
But if it's owned by the town and it's a road, wouldn't the town then be responsible for maintaining a road owned by the town?
Precisely, and that's why
And
the
if we
town's
wanted
looking
to
to
discontinue it,
discontinue
we
that
could
service.
discontinue it because we own it.
And so then how do they get onto the main road?
It's their driveway.
But it's our
That's-
property, so how can it be their
So-
driveway and our property?
If the town discontinues maintenance of that road,
Mhm.
the ownership of that can be split 50-50 to both, the owners, it goes right down the center line and goes to both sides. They own both sides. The town could maintain an easement, the town doesn't intend to maintain any sort of an easement. If the town discontinues this road, the property then fully reverts to the abutting landowners, which they own both sides. One might argue that it actually enhances the value of their property because now they don't have two bisected portions.
Oh, you can look at that both ways, cause like the rail trail, you could say, oh, that increases your property, you have access to the trail. Or you can argue the fact that it totally devalues your property because it's noisy as hell, it's dusty as hell, and there's strangers going near your property all the time. Okay, so there's always two ways to look at it, right? So we could say, well, you know, maybe I sell that to an old retired couple, okay? With the benefit of, hey, that gets plowed out. Okay, awesome. Then I can always have a way out. I can always have a way for the ambulance to come at night. I can always have a way for the fire truck to come in. You could sell it that way, or you could say, oh, but then there'll be people down here. Okay, and by the way, your comment on the video last time about if somebody was to drive down through there.
Yep.
That we would be sure to call Somerset County, I think was highly inappropriate. Okay, seriously?
Would you
I can't
want
believe you said that.
someone parking in?
But you think I'm gonna be calling the cops?
Oh, I'm
I
not.
had
I'm
people
not-
pull in and go, my GPS says this is Walmart.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, it's 7.5 miles down the river road, and it's about the same distance,
Right.
but there's no A on that.
Has the road committee like crunch the number, like, I'd just be curious, like, how much time and money are we spending on this
It's kind of an
road?
I want to turn around it all,
It-
like, well, if it's used as a turnaround, we use turnarounds other places.
It's kind of irrelevant
Is it
statement,
a
All
useful
irrelevant,
turnaround?
the cost is
but I
irrelevant.
mean, like the town of Stocks, has several of them places go down the river where there's only one house in them. I mean, if they went to did that like that, I mean, that's not, we ain't talking about Stocks, but there'd be a civil uproar if they did that to every, just because the road committee felt we wanna
It was
do that.
inconvenient, is. what it sounds
Inconvenient, I
like to
mean,
me.
over there, Stocks, I'm sure them costs like hell to go down them farms. Over there, which they've been doing for years.
Or even some
But
of
I
our
mean,
roads,
so, but-
like, are we calculating how many
Of course,
people
we ain't
live on
talking
a
about
road?
Stocks, but.
And if that road's worth,
Yeah, that all
Our
plays
time.
a factor.
you just said the cost didn't play a
No,
factor.
the access for people, the cost of this section of road really doesn't play a factor in the equation. We're plowing somebody's driveway for them. It is a road, and I realize that, I don't, my small vocabulary here, it's a loop, and we're plowing both sides of it.
My choice.
For you to sell your
By
front
choice.
piece and have the advantage of saying the town would plow it for you, that it will always be plowed. The town's not in the business of plowing one person's driveway.
What if they built another house
But
where they own
on
both
the
sides
road.
of that, like, so say if their son builds a house on there, now there's two properties on that road.
I don't know as though a house would fit between your the right of with this piece of road and the actual main road. Maybe you could fit a house in there. Either way, I've got to say that I fully support the road committee's decision to discontinue this road. I've been on the road, right? You guys don't remember being upset with me when I parked there to brook fish, because the brook is right there. And it was a town road, and you didn't feel so happy about it then that I parked there. This was some time ago.
Is
I sure
that
don't
why-
remember.
Is that why you exasperated the, oh yeah, after Richard said I'd be calling the sheriff?
I don't believe you called the sheriff on me then, but
I didn't.
at the
I've
time,
never called the sheriff. I've asked people, you know, you can tell somebody's living there, right?
clearly, yeah, at your house.
Stop and ask, strike a conversation, hey, you know, I know that,
Well, you could, but I mean,
but you didn't.
you say it's a town road, so you
But if
can
the town
park on
owns
it.
But if you were
You wouldn't
fishing at
have
a
to.
brook, though, the brook was probably on their
So
property.
did you jump off the old bridge
Get to the
that
brook.
goes 20 feet down?
Right.
Into the water to walk the water, or did you cut across the property?
I parked the road and walked to the road, the main road, and then walked down.
I think this is.
But this was
getting
all,
off.
yeah, a little bit,
Yeah,
a
I
little
don't- I don't
bit.
think that's like.
What we're bringing up is,
I get
it
that.
didn't shine a great light when Richard said what he said about the sheriff, and you went, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you come park.
So
my-
how many years ago was this?
Oh, probably 7 or 8. It's been a bit, This, I think there was still the right to access then, about accessing streams. Either way, for me, I agree with the committee that's below us, that the town really has no interest or has no benefit to maintaining this road. And without documentation, I can't see why we would uphold agreement that you can't verify exists.
Cause you've been doing it for 63
You-
years,
And you just
and I know
said
that there was paperwork.
you have it in the tax map
So-
that you own the road, so you maintain. it.
If
Right.
we own the road, we must have agreed
At
to
some
take
point,
care of the road.
Yeah, we don't know what the agreement
Yes.
was. Was it
No
a
idea.
So
temporary
we
thing? Was
made it
it,
a road, but then said we're not gonna touch it, though. We wanna own this, but we're not gonna do anything. to it.
what was it originally
Isn't that
put there for? Is
Is that
the
the-
Because
question.
63 years ago, they're doing things the same way we are right now, and tax mapping and having it digital, so I mean, like,
That's kind of where
It's
we're going.
just-
Things evolve and we have
things
to
get
evolve with
grandfathered
them.
in. Like,
And if the
that's-
original plan was for just an access route between here and there, and that's what it was for, and it's no longer needed, then we need to take a look at where we
An
stand at this
access
point.
road from,
That's what I'm asking is what it was for
From
originally.
their
You weren't here
house to the
63 years
main
ago.
road?
I wasn't here 63 years ago. So none of us know what that agreement actually was, is what we're trying to say.
And I
And
guess
if it's-
it would have been nice for the road committee to come talk to us, right? So I don't know we don't know what information they were told. Who was telling them the information? The person who's telling them that we're gonna call the cops on them? Or the person telling them that they're, you know, oh God, we're spending all this money ditching and graveling and grading and fixing culverts, right? Who's giving them the information? I think I would have liked to have a conversation with the road committee, right? Hey, you know, this is what we're thinking on this road, right? We could have asked them the questions about the cost, right? You apparently don't know. Wouldn't the road committee know? Like, a general idea about the cost that they're putting into this road, somebody must have that information and somebody must think it's a giant amount of money.
If it's
Okay,
five,
we
if it's
know
$5,
it's not
it's
a
too
giant
much.
amount.
I don't.
Right.
So,
So the road committee tasked the department with coming up with the extra mile, the end mile, if you will. So those are roads that we send equipment and vehicles to maintain out, and it's costly to get there. So that's Independence Drive up off Beach Hill. That's George Street. That's Outer Beach Hill, where it turns into gravel. Those are very costly sections of road to maintain because they're gravel. So we have to spend, we can't just send a regular salt sand truck out. We have to send a specialized mix to treat gravel roads. And in the course of discussing those roads that are gravel, that cost more, we have to send graders to, or we send sand trucks to, as opposed to a heavier salt mix, this section of road came up. And the road committee thought that it was something that had been put to bed a long time ago. And when they found out that we were still maintaining it, they recommended to send it to the select board for consideration.
maintenance is, like, apparently maintenance is a loose term. To.
Kind of.
There must be
Yeah,
some
okay.
financial record of any work order done on that.
Your truck
Because in
goes
order to,
right by.
There's
to
nothing
Farm
about
Road.
after the town maintained it for so many years that they, that like.
I don't know why we
No,
stuck on
but
the
he-
cost. The
the-
cost is really
the point I'm
irrelevant.
trying to make is, it was said that they do ditching, they do the culvert.
I know, but.
Okay,
like-
but
It's false information that's being fed to.
is there any proof that this work was done?
In the fall of 2017, I have photo documentation of the whole road being ditched, culverts being reset, and surface being applied. I have those right here on my computer.
Okay, so I was there when they were doing
You know,
it, okay?
I do take offense from time to time, but you pretty much just allege that we're lying and feeding misinformation.
No, I
We've
wanted-
never done this.
I
maintenance on
wanted
the road.
what you have right there.
And in the last 6 years, 7 years, we've done this maintenance on the road. It's not that
You
long.
did it once.
And when was the last time we go and ditch a whole section of road? It's about to this.
It didn't get all ditched. Have you ever been,
There's no ditch.
have you ever been?
Either, so if the town did own it, we'd have to maintain it. And if it hasn't been, if it's never been worked on, then it would have to be done right off, wouldn't it? And we're not gonna spend money to ditch something that we have no reason to own, no interest in it, it has no value to the town. The cost is irrelevant. If it was free, it would be too much. Why do we wanna own your driveway? We don't.
You already own it.
Right, so you can have it back and it can be yours. You can have the land and do what you will with it.
They're just saying, no,
Agreement.
thank you.
Was access
option.
to the old road. Okay,
Yeah.
and that's when they used to just drive in and back up. And do their own little wiggle jiggle to drive up,
Right. And even that made no sense, right? Why would we plow
because
that
they said they were gonna, they had an agreement.
somewhere that no one has seen? I haven't seen it. You say yourself that you haven't seen it.
No, I have.
We can't produce it.
I
You saw a
have.
folder.
Yes. So without some sort of agreement, 63 years? Now, you said there's no other. Does the town do anything with the airport? By the hangars?
The town plows, perimeter outside of that, mind you, that the airport is a separate entity from the town.
Absolutely. Okay, but. Do you plow in front of the hangars where people rent?
We plow 20-foot perimeter and we actually suspended plowing in front of hangars. And the airport advisories actually do meet to discuss fees associated with that.
That you're gonna,
If
Okay.
The town would provide that as an alternate service, the airport would provide that as an alternate service. That they would have to do that in the same way that they provide fees for their hangar lease. It would be an extension of their lease agreement with the town.
and all of that agreement is in writing, a long-standing agreement. Now, the airport's only been there since 62, 3.
No,
Yeah,
40s.
always.
not as it is now. Yes, there was. There was tiny. But. The town has been plowing private people's rented hangars
But I think it's,
at the airport.
I think we're not germane to the conversation anymore. I think the root of the conversation is not about how much it costs, how often it gets done or anything else. It's a matter of the town has responsibility currently for some, if not all, of the section of loop that goes down and around. Presently, the town maintains to what degree, 1 or 100, that loop. Private or public, it's maintained. What is germane before the board is, does the board want the townspeople to consider not maintaining that section of road and forfeiting any responsibility or ownership of that road there? That's what is at hand. Not about apples and oranges or bananas, it's about this one section of road, and does the select board think that there's enough merit to discontinue service on that road to send it to the townspeople to consider?
I would like the town to continue to service the road.
Okay.
See, now,
So would I.
Me too.
the loop was never, wasn't there.
So do we need to
Right.
vote on whether or not we want the town to keep servicing it as the select board now, or send it to the town?
That's
The board, if the board says we're gonna continue to maintain, we don't want the townspeople to weigh in on this. Then the next move is for the board to order a survey of the town's property there, because we are illegally maintaining their road.
You just said we own it.
But they are saying we don't.
Okay, then I make a motion that we table this until we have all the information,
Who said you?
because clearly we
You
don't.
said that the southern point of access off of Route 201A is your property that you constructed yourself in order to make a loop.
That 50 foot down the driveway to the old road.
Okay, so the town of Norridgewock is not legally able to maintain that. And if you made if you made an agreement with an employee, they don't have I don't have the ability to make that kind of
So
agreement.
if you
This
did that,
body
sorry,
does
then we
not
just
have
be
that.
plowing down from the one point and then out into the woods?
It's gonna be plowed down into the side. That's just like any other dead end
But
road.
it's the drive closest to Store Brook
I don't know.
that has been the,
Right, so if the board declines to move forward with considering discontinuance, then the board's obligation then is going to be to order a survey of that and lay the road out. As it would be defined in the deeds. And all of the charts that are at the registry of deeds.
I think that's the big miss we've had here, is it's not defined in the deeds, and that's where all of this.
The road is defined in the deeds, the maintenance responsibility is not.
I mean,
So it's a town.
yeah, that's like, I don't
Do
understand how
we
we have
own
time
the
off, but not-
entire loop or not?
No.
No,
See,
Just not
so,
one part.
Okay,
you own,
because you had the wrong, you were looking at the wrong picture in the first place, okay? It was never a loop in the first place, so why didn't you guys get the right information in the first place? Okay, is part of the problem. Right? Why were you guys told that it's like, all this money, blah, blah, blah? Okay, so. I'm sorry you didn't get all the information.
Have you consulted an attorney? See if they vote it? I know that costs money too, but.
For what?
Have you-
What? To do what?
have you-
off the cuff.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah.
But why did you ask that?
What?
Why did you ask that?
I don't know, nosy.
honest.
Man, I'm so glad I'm checking the papers again.
Yeah.
And
Sort of.
I mean, I have no axe to grind about anything.
So I guess why have we been plowing a road that we don't
Sorry,
own?
But we do own it, that's the thing.
But we don't, we're saying we don't know that we own it, so why have they been plowing it?
We own it, it's just a matter of, it
What
comes in like this and goes straight into the
What-
woods,
what-
and they add it like an
Limbo
exit
right now
out
is
point.
what is actually owned.
I'm saying what was brought to us was, hey, there's this loop. It doesn't make sense for the town to keep maintaining it. It only services one house. We shouldn't be spending money on it. That's a misuse of town
Yep.
funds.
Yep.
And now I'm hearing that like we might only own half of that. And now if we want to discontinue that road, we have to pay to have it appraised. So why are we ever maintaining it in the first place? So to me, it's just,
All valid.
Why-
All valid. Why were we ever maintaining it?
with so much respect to everyone who maintains our roads, it just sounds like it's an inconvenience. And it should be framed
For
that
the
way,
town or for them?
for the town to do that loop.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Okay,
Yeah,
and so isn't it an inconvenience to do other roads where there are only a few people?
Not if part of it's privately owned.
right,
That's the difference, is part of this is private.
This didn't, it being privately owned did not become a part of the conversation until tonight.
No, it knows.
Right.
It was,
No.
I was not aware of that
No.
until this evening,
Yeah.
that they owned part of it. It was the, it,
We're the only abutters.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I meant. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
other property
Right.
owners
Thank
in
you.
there.
It's
I thought you
all-
were talking about how they.
But like, wait,
No, no,
that
that there's no
conversation,
other
if it
property
wasn't a
owners.
bunch that wasn't them, like, would we even be having this conversation if there was another property owner?
Yes,
It would be
the
different,
process
but
is
yeah,
just different.
yeah.
There's a 1-year hold on it if there's an additional person. The road committee was very passionate about their position on this, given the added cost of, you go out, there's no other reason for a truck to go out there. It's typically a different type of truck that goes out to service your road.
No,
No,
I watch
it's
it,
not.
I
It's
see
the
it.
Same exact one. So this is the problem I have. There's so much misinformation going on.
It really has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
level of information, it
Yeah.
has to do with the fact that this point of entry provides exclusive access to your residence and does not benefit the town of Norridgewock or the public in general.
Okay,
They
That
are
is
part of
the
the
root.
town,
So why
so
didn't
we
you
can't
just-
say that it doesn't benefit the town.
Taxes all the time. Okay? I'm not on the,
Right,
late list, right? You don't have to wait for my money. You get it right on time. So, and then that's the second time I've heard you say that, that there's no public interest in it. Am I not the public? Am I not part of this community? Am I not part of this town? Am I not a taxpayer? Really?
Yeah, the town
She
has
has
no
a point.
vested
Yeah.
interest
You
in
have to
following
set-
you.
she-
63
I get that, but she has a point. If there are two people that live on a road and we're gonna say, not enough for us to
I
go
mean, I tried to
down.
get Hato Farm turned into a road and it's got 24 people on it and 23 trailers and we couldn't do that. So why would we?
Why can't we
Because you have to
have
deal with like
that?
the owners of the property and have them make that into a public instead of a private
Yeah.
road. It's not.
So
the
they
same.
own it.
Again, it's not the apples and apples. to-
Right.
We
Right.
own this and we've
Yes.
been plowing
push.
it. And now we've decided we don't want to.
Yeah,
Yeah, we have no reason to have the road.
the town
It
comes
serves no
down
purpose to the town, other than.
My driveway.
It is a nice driveway.
to the old road.
Yeah,
Since I put up the one on the south side, coming down to the old road,
yes.
is when they were like, awesome, great, we can just drive in and drive out.
Well, I mean, that does make sense in that aspect, but in the aspect of the town plowing your driveway, it doesn't.
Richard said we have to send a separate truck.
Yeah.
Incorrect data. Cause I'm plowing what they don't. I also plow a few people locally, friends. I see that truck a lot. That goes up to Father Isle, comes right back, drives in the high side, drives right back out, and keeps going.
Less than 5 minutes.
Not even,
Yeah,
but that's not the point.
right.
The point is, the information you're saying, Richard, is we have to send an extra truck. Look at all the money the town's putting into this. Ditching, culverts. It's the same culvert that's been there since my grandfather lived there. And when it was ditched, it was dug 5 feet this way into a low spot, and same thing on the other side. You can still see it. Okay? I mean, did they do it? Yes. They cut some limbs to stop hitting the plow truck? Yes. Cause they come in with the big truck. The information that you're giving out isn't exactly accurate. It ain't, it's not a lie, don't get me wrong, but it's not
Right,
proven data.
right, if you
Okay,
will.
the money we put into this. Well, where is town garages, work orders, whatever? And what has been done there? What cost effect to the town was done there? That one time 7 years ago.
Yeah, either way, right?
I know what you're gonna say now. We
Yeah,
have no
yeah.
vested interest, it's
No.
not in our best, I
Zero.
get that. Other than the fact that the town made an agreement and they should stick to it.
If there was an agreement, well, I tell you right now, we
I've
were.
done it, but it's long, it wasn't something, like, that's what.
I don't know any more than you
Like,
do. If someone can produce it, I most certainly will honor it, as would every member of this
I
board.
feel like, 6 decades of servicing it is.
Count your votes. Call a vote.
Yeah,
If we
somebody
vote
make
it
it.
down.
I would make a
and-
motion that the town continues to service the road.
There's a motion.
Would you say, would you
Can
say?
you second, you abstained from the last vote on the topic because it was a conflict of interest. I don't know as though I can have you seconding a motion that's a
Because it would then be a.
conflict.
Would you say?
That now all of a sudden, it
Would you
was
say a
a.
motion?
To
With that more
continue to
information now.
service the road.
I-
To continue
I don't-
to service the road.
On
I
that,
think it would look.
I'll second that motion.
there we go, Chucky seconded, that we can have. So there's a motion and a second to continue the road. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of the town keeping the road? And those against? There we go. I suppose the motion passes. I'm not sure on that. There we go. That settles that, I guess. So I have no idea. You just voted on something that was a conflict of interest.
I didn't know the
At
information
the
before.
last-
I feel like I know the
That
information more
conversation
now.
might be better
I wasn't
behind
given all the
closed
information, so I couldn't do
It
it.
should be, I'm not sure, so someone, I guess, will keep the vote as it is and they'll consult legal on that.
If there's a question about a conflict of interest, it was disclosed at the last meeting, there was a conflict, and you thought I was too close to the situation. If there's a question of conflict before the board, then it gets called before the board, and the board votes on whether or not a member has a conflict, whether it's this or anything else.
If we don't
Vote
count
on that
Lindsay's
now?
vote, we're,
Then the
we're,
motion fails.
The
If you
motion,
approve if you vote to move it on, the motion will fail. You will deadlock it 2-2.
I mean,
And what does
when I
that
spoke
mean?
to you before this happened, Richard, you told me to abstain from it, off the books, and so
your
I
exact
did what you
words were
said.
they're friends.
If after,
It's
before
supposed
we
to-
came to this meeting, Matt, he told me to abstain to it because I didn't feel comfortable voting on this because it just felt like, so.
well, either way. I mean, I'm
We
fine
voted
if nothing
to bring it to
happens.
The town, we didn't vote to
That's
just
fine.
cancel it, we voted to bring the option of stopping it to the town. We didn't
Huh?
vote on, that's what we did to bring
Right,
it to
that's part
like.
of the, yeah, part of the
Yeah.
process is to go through
We
the
just
process.
voted,
and
if
at
we're
the
gonna
end-
keep the town servicing it. That's a different vote, and I feel perfectly fine voting for that.
Wait, I didn't even.
All right,
motion
I-
is dead. No matter how you
Okay.
slice it, it's gonna fail 2-2 either way.
Yeah,
So there's no action gonna take on this. As road commissioner, I will be moving forward with a survey on this road under the public works budget to assess what our legal rights, not obligations, our
Right, let's see if
rights
we
are
can
to maintain on this road.
produce an agreement that either the town had or the state made or
If it's
someone.
not the
just ran
registry of
by.
deeds, not a legal.
Right, so you
But
can find it or
Town
you can
has
find
now
it.
the obligation, now that we're made aware, I was not aware, this was not, until tonight, that this was not a wholly public road section. Now we have the obligation to go in and determine what is or is not public.
Okay.
And maintain going forward.
So basically it gets surveyed at this point.
And it will need to be signed on the appropriate ends, it'll need to be signed dead end, it'll need to be posted with a speed limit, and all of that. will need to
All
take
after
place.
this, but it has to be surveyed first
We
to
need to
figure out
survey to
who
find out
owns
where.
what and where.
That's correct. So that will be our course of action moving forward, and so if you see folks on the property, as long as it's not snow on the ground, then we'll move that water forward.
Will
Okay.
we be giving a phone call or send any kind of message saying on these few days, expect surveys?
Probably not, because surveyors come when they want to at their convenience. They'll be there, we'll ask them to come and knock on the door when they're there, just to give you a heads up. But, by and large, we're at the surveyor's convenience in this environment. If I have an idea as to when they'll come, then yes, but other than that, we'll ask them to door knock to let you know there's somebody there. Despite the fact that it would be a section of public road.
I feel like some things I had said offended you,
No, it wasn't you tonight, but I appreciate that.
but
Oh, it's
I
probably,
don't,
It's, yep.
okay,
but I like
It's not-
people who tell the truth.
scientific.
Okay, all right, thank you guys, thank you so much for coming in, I do appreciate your time. Moving forward, number 10, discussion action on on-premise beer, wine, spirits, license renewal for the Manor Store.
Yeah. If you don't have anything in your packet, this comes online now through Babylon. It was not filed properly through Bablo or the Bablo support error. Anyway, there are no changes from the previous application. And so to keep it above board and moving forward, I would ask that you would approve the renewal with no changes.
So we're just looking for a motion to approve it as it is.
Renew it.
Or
To approve the renewal with no changes.
So moved.
second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody. Number 12, sorry, number 11 here, discussion action on future process of liquor license applications.
So this has to do largely with your catering permits that we have. And it was just this application from Madhouse that kind of brought it to the front for me. But we have folks that come in, we have wedding venues in town, we have locations, people want to get married and they want to have service on site. And I never really thought about it, but other municipalities grant the authority to a town manager or a town clerk to issue these one-day permits. So I reached out to other towns to say, hey, what do you guys have for policy guidelines on this? To try to streamline it for folks. And I developed this document, which went out in your packet, as a draft procedure that you can look at, modify, reject, or accept. But this would pretty much say that if you are the first one, off-premise service by off-premise catering, that's what you're gonna see at your wedding venues, type of things, where they carry a license and then they just need a license to serve there. That would be something that you could vest the authority in me as town manager and or town clerk to approve that application. But if I was uncomfortable or it seemed as though there might be reputation issues, ongoing problems, I could defer that to you folks. The on-premise license, that would be like your Madhouse that we just looked at. A first-time applicant would go to the select board. And would be required if the ownership changed, even if it went from one LLC to another in the same managing partner, that would still come before you. And then the renewal again could come through town manager or town clerk's office, and if there were issues, come to you folks. Retail doesn't require our approval, but then in all cases, approval or denial of any application would then be reported out loud in your meeting and then incorporated into your record. So that was kind of the draft that I had. It would also require that folks applying would be current with the town. Don't know what your thoughts are.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then it would be a motion to approve and accept the liquor license application local review procedure as presented.
So
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody. Let's see, number 12 here, discussion action on 2025 animal shelter contracts.
So this is between the town and the Humane Society in Skowhegan. The per capita rate is $2.50. The total bill would be $8,195, which is really no change over last year. Obviously, we're underway in the year. Motion in order would be to authorize you need to sign the animal housing contract January 1 through December 31, 2025.
so moved.
Motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's everybody. Other business, the board have anything for other business? Richard? Nothing. Okay, number 14, discussion action on 2025 budgets.
So we have Kathy Hopkins here, who is the chair of the cemetery committee. Thank you for your patience. At the last meeting, the board unanimously supported your request for operation. So your base budget. The topic at hand this evening is the cemetery reserve account. For which the committee asked 15,000. I recommended 10,000 in my budget proposal. Last night, the budget committee preliminarily endorsed the $10,000 request, but he has submitted a working document, a living document for their maintenance under the cemeteries. It should be near the cemetery slide. Sorry, I'm gonna tag them up for you, but we talked about where they've been maintaining, where they need to maintain and whatnot, so. I don't know if you want to give them an overview, it's the.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
So we had a very successful year this year, maintaining the cemeteries, kind of for the first time. We've been, spending a couple of years trying to find contractors that would do the work and do the work well. There aren't that many, and a lot of them are older people who are scaling back their businesses and aren't really looking for more work to do. So we were really excited when we got a bid this year. And we did a significant amount of work in Riverview Cemetery. We have a significant amount left to do. But we are, as a committee, we're really excited about moving forward finally and finding this particular contractor. And that's what we would like to spend the reserve account money on, is bringing this particular contractor back again. He comes to Maine every year anyway, and usually does 1 or 2 training opportunities for different towns or regions. They were in New Sharon this past summer, so that's why we could get him to come while he was there. Then coming to Norridgewock was no big deal, so so we would like to do that again and continue the work that we're doing. We also plan to have a couple of training workshops for the simpler, just basic cleaning of monuments and so on, for townsfolk. And so that will happen sometime in the spring, but there's a lot of very heavy work to do that you need specialized equipment for, that we're not gonna buy, much less operate. So, questions or?
So the total estimate is 36,000? Of like all the work that you see at all of the,
Of all the maintenance and the reserve account, you mean?
maintenance budget?
Oh,
And I recommend.
right, well, that, yes, and that includes, part of improving, the knowledge of our cemeteries is getting a mapping system.
Yeah.
And so that's probably gonna be 3,000.
That's budgeted in the operating this year, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we touched on that too.
Yeah.
Is Old Oak the one that's on River Road here, where my house is? That's that one?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what fencing? I guess I just don't understand. What's the,
By law, cemeteries are supposed to be fenced.
okay,
There's a fence in the back
yep.
of oak, but there's nothing along the roadway.
There's a bunch of damaged ones that are kind of tipped down over there too. And I'm guessing,
Yeah.
okay, so with that,
Yeah,
is it the plow trucks going by that's kind of
I
not
think,
so close to the road?
I think that it's just so close to the road, there's nothing separating the cemetery itself from the road,
Mhm.
and the road has probably gotten wider over the years.
Yeah,
To accommodate traffic, so it's kind of encroaching in.
so are there any type of guidelines with the sort of, you know, the aesthetic of that type of fence? Like, I know that one, it's tons of super old graves and things like that. And I know there are some new ones, but, you know, I think was something that's, I mean, it's a really cool thing to have in the town. I mean, like the people who built my house in 1820, I can go see their grave like right next to there, and it was, you kind of don't want to just throw up like a chain link fence or something. So is there any sort of parameters to make sure that it kind of keeps with? Okay,
Not really, just
Right.
that it's supposed to be fenced,
Okay.
and
And
so,
cost.
yeah, and I just would hate to see something, I mean, like, it's so
Basically, yeah.
old and it's so like, it's really, it's beautiful in there. I would hate to see, like, I wish that there would be some sort of, you know, parameters in there to ensure that that type of old charm and like beauty wasn't diminished because we put something in because it was cheaper. I would hope that we sort of, make sure that we budget for that and like have that in mind. That would be my only concern, is that, you know, that and any other places, I mean, we are lucky enough to have such, you know, old historic things like that. I want to make sure that it doesn't just look like, you know.
we're so lucky to have 11 cemeteries in this town. Not really.
And that one's still there after it was like up to what I call the death hut in water. Like it's,
So,
So will the 10,000 allow you to work with that person who? you said is
Yes,
coming? Okay.
yes, and tentatively, he will be back in Maine and he would like to come and spend another 5 days in Norridgewock. If he can, he had a great time. Oh, the people are so friendly and the work is so great. Look at this, what a challenge, and I'm having fun. But the thing is, the added benefit is that he's kind of like the old cemetery guru. And so when he comes to Maine and schedules all his different towns that he's going to work in, all the groupies say, wow, oh, look what he's gonna do. Did you know what he's gonna do in Norridgewock? There's this whole long berm that's got about 20 gravestones on it. And if they're all tipping over and breaking the ones behind, he's gonna raise that whole thing. We can't miss out on that.
She's not joking.
No.
Everybody else did.
What week are they coming?
We need that hotel.
So his cost was $5,665 last year. In a rough count of how many volunteer hours we had over those 5.5 days, I went to the independent sector has the value of volunteer time by state. And so if the amount of volunteer time from townspeople, I mean, 3 of us were there most of those 5 days. And people came from as far away as down east and because they wanted to see this thing that was gonna be happening. Anyway, so roughly there were 40 hours of volunteer time.
Nice.
And according to the independent sector, the value of volunteer time in Maine is $30.55 an hour, which means that the value of the volunteer time of all the volunteers for that week was $6,110.
Nice.
So we got more free work
Yeah.
than the paid work.
Yeah,
And we could probably do that again this summer.
very cool.
So that's the benefit of, you know.
Yeah.
Doing this again.
Awesome.
The free labor.
Yeah.
Well, I'm missing too, there's a learning with that as well, that can be carried on without him being there, that you can sort of, you know, pass upon like the other properties and other issues that come up. So they're gonna be similar in old cemeteries, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
So it's.
And you know, he's got the equipment, he does the heavy work, the lifting the stones and the putting the stones back together piece by piece. The townspeople can do
Want to
basic
take notes,
cleaning.
yeah.
Well, they
Yeah.
can, but unless you have all this equipment, they're not gonna
We
do
got
that.
lots of volunteers probably.
But there's plenty of cleaning to do,
Mhm.
plenty of that, just to spiff up our.
Yeah.
Cemetery, so very cool, yeah, so.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for
Any
everything
other
you do.
questions? Oh,
Did you go to the budget committee meeting as well?
I did not.
So the ask from them was 15,
Yeah.
yours
And it was 10.
was 10.
So we'll come up with our proposal, whether it's 10 or the 15.
Oh, wait, I have one more question. Where volunteer, like ours is showing to be so valuable, is there any, you know, I'm just thinking, you know, selfishly with my like own kids, like we do a lot of stuff in the town with like the elementary school. Is there any type of way to foster some sort of like a program with the kids to have them come and volunteer and learn about that kind of stuff? Cause I feel like that could be a way to get kind of lifelong volunteers and interest in the, you know, the younger generation. I mean, if we involve something like that, like, is there even like a structure for you guys to be able to do that administratively to?
We talked about that at our last committee meeting and are thinking of contacting the high school history teacher. And see if that could be a way that the students could come and learn about the basic cleaning. And there's also record keeping that needs to be done. And even senior citizens maybe aren't gonna come and scrub a stone, but they could bring their chair and sit down and document that. You know, part of the value of mapping is getting the data off the stones once you can read them because they're cleaned. And having that data. We could start with seniors, writing it down on paper, and then upload it when we get a mapping system. So, yeah, there are some different things that we've been talking about, so
Great.
hopefully this spring.
Okay, perfect.
Does anybody have a motion?
Approve budget as
So
is.
we're gonna come up with our recommendation, whether we go with Richards at the 10, or we come up with our own 11.5, or funding at her full 15. It is the board's choice to come up with our recommended budget amount. After listening to her, I mean, I'm not gonna make the motion, but I certainly am in favor of the 15.
So I move to approve for the cemetery committee's recommendation of 15.
No, go ahead.
Second. Yep, everybody in favor of that?
Mhm.
That's everybody. That's as official as we need to be. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We get done.
Ready? And then. Next.
Yeah, we slated the gazebo. And then we talk about their capital research request. So the gazebo was just a slide towards the end of the deck, because that's where the job description probably makes sense. This. But yeah, it's a pretty simple sheet that you got towards the end of the packet. Talks about gazebo request. Asking for a standalone article.
I bet people love walking us floor there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Did I ever find it? Is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
What you see on the left is of your slide is the existing gazebo at School Park. What you see on the right is the recently constructed gazebo in Belgrade, which was modeled after gazebo in the garden. Those plans have been donated to us for our own use and adjustment, along with some other recommendations. The guy that funded the gazebo for Belgrade individually said, you know, we have these, I'll call them grates on the top of the gazebo and the cupola. We would have louvers if we had to do it again. Small things like that, recommendations, learnings from
Would he
that.
like to fund ours and put the new
Yeah.
Like,
project
what is that
in?
original one? Like, the original one doesn't have it, like, is that, I mean, is that why it's so expensive?
So the 75,000 was a budgetary number, that came from the Belgrade project, which also required earthwork and the foundation, the slab for that. So obviously those are things that we benefit from already, but you don't want to come and ask for an amount of money and then not have enough to complete the project. So that's where that comes from, it's budgetary. And then the girls are here. Thank you for coming. I don't know if you guys want to talk about the gazebo or your capital reserve request or anything else in the parks area.
Well. I don't have to stand up, right?
No.
So, as some of you don't know me, my name is Val Tria, and I'm a member of the Parks Committee along with Abigail and Sherry. And we are here because we're very passionate about this park, and this gazebo project is something, you know, we want to see, you know, improvements on. And, you know, we don't know what the flood has done to it. We don't know what shape it's in, but we put out this number of 75,000. Just because it could be up to 75,000. We don't know. We just put that out there. I don't know if you girls want to add?
Sure, so, for anybody that came this summer and enjoyed the music in the park, it was quite a hit. Abigail and I were just actually grocery shopping and had a nice couple come up and say, are you guys back to doing that again this summer? We really want to come, we enjoyed it. They come all the way from Skowhegan, so that's quite a feat to see people coming over. So, with this, it is part of the start of the enhancing of all of our parks. So we do realize that we have just more than Azula Park in our budget and what we have out there. But we feel that that's quite a marking of Azula Park as well as the town. You see it from both sides of the river, you see it down, and maybe someday if we can work towards the entryway into the park, as we've been speaking about, that would also bring something more inviting to have that there. I will admit, Abby and I sponge off of the internet down there. We don't have it at home, so we go down and there's not a day in the summer that there's no other cars in there, people enjoying like birthday parties and things like that. So just to be able to enhance it a little bit more for not only the Music in the Park series, but for those families to enjoy it for the birthday parties, the baby showers. I think there was a baby shower down there one day, which was really nice to see. So, yes, it does sound like a large amount, but like Richard was saying, hopefully with what we have there, we can work with. But again, we never know what happens once we start tearing things down and what we have for structures. I think in part of that, Richard, if I was right, we talked about maybe a sound system a little bit better for those musicians that are coming to do that, to be able to jump on. I know that was some of the hiccups last year. Some of their speakers were a little bit smaller and kind of distorted what they were trying to.
And also
Share
for like,
with us.
just normal events that we host down there too, some, like you get a hear on the speaker and it'd be really nice to have that mounted, and to get the better,
That one's fine.
better sound system in there for everybody else to be able to hear too. Yeah, we had a nice 2 months of music and I don't know if any of you came.
Yeah.
But it was great. We had 150 to 200 people, like.
I think our
highest one was 370. Yeah. And they're all excited, you know, some are from, a lot are from Norridgewock, but a lot are from Skowhegan area, Madison, I mean, surrounding towns that are just like, wow, and we probably had 6 boats in the river maybe watching, but. One of our farthest people we had come was, another person that reached out to us to ask if we were doing it again. They came all the way from Booth Bay that night to come watch it, we saw it online. And we do go with raffle tickets and stuff because that's our gazebo, you know.
It's fun, it's good, it's nice to see some of the things, so as you saw in the other proposal we had, there's a lot of other avenues we're hoping to do to expand to some other additional parks and, you know, enhancing some of the beauty that we have in this town. So.
I like it. All good things.
So one question I have is, you know, concern about the flood and the damage that could have happened. If we're trying to use the existing space, structure, slab, are we setting ourselves up, like, are we gonna have to engineer this? We're gonna have to lift it up? Like, if the flood came, it's gonna be in the flood zone. I mean, it's not being mortgaged, so legally you don't have to have flood insurance, but like, I mean, if we're gonna invest, you know, save substantial amount of money, do we have to? Is it the same with a municipality, like, property? I don't know. I would just, if we're gonna invest that and it could be damaged by a flood, like we should, I mean, I don't know, like, what is our plan to make sure that, one, it's not just ruined if we have another flood, two, like, do we have to, if we have to insure a flood turns, and that's gonna be like.
That would be Richard, we're just the visionaries.
Yeah. No, I
So
appreciate that.
we wouldn't insure necessarily for flood specific to that. Our general property casualty covered the building that we had down there, that got picked up and moved. Mind you, this gazebo did get overtopped. I mean, there was about a foot visible of this current gazebo when the flood water came in. You talk about anchoring, I think is about where we're at in terms of if we're gonna do anything there. And then it's. If we want to continue to invest and focus on the river, then those are some of the risks that we end up having to take.
I just wanna make sure we don't end up in like an engineering thing we have to do because of that, that's where it was,
So
or
these
like.
plans are all pre-engineered, they've been stamped by an engineer.
For something that's in a floodplain, or?
No.
We're not even, so we're not gonna like worry about it being in a floodplain. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm gonna throw us a curveball, so. You can finish
You're
your
gonna
thought
build
if you want.
You're gonna build
Yeah.
this one.
No, you don't want that. Has there been any consideration of leaving the gazebo as is and instead building like a stage? Cause I feel like the gazebo is an awkward space for a performance, like they look kind of weird in there, in my opinion. And the positioning isn't great, like the sun sets and then you can't see anything. So I just wonder like, and then people could sit in the gazebo and listen. I feel like building a stage might be a little bit cheaper. And then we could spend money on making the outside look pretty.
That's an option, you know, I mean, there's
Right.
nothing that's.
We would just have to make sure if we did do a stage, where would we put it for when we have Azula days, because we are pretty
Right.
limited on space, and then if we
Mhm.
continue to grow. With maybe
Right.
doing the fall carnivals and those type of things,
Yeah.
but also making sure we have coverage. And so we did have a little bit of sprinkles last year, it was nice that they were inside the gazebo and continue to play and let it through, so. I mean, yeah.
Just a thought.
It's a good-
No, it's a good thing to bring up though. I mean, if we're gonna, you know, transfer $75,000, could that be spent and do more? I mean, like, could 5,000 make it so that gazebo has another 20 years of life fixing repairs and then, there's more money to invest in some other stuff like that. I mean, and that could be, a stage
Because I agree, a
that's
sound
covered.
system would be good.
Yeah.
I mean, we've looked at it, I haven't personally gone down and seen like, I mean, that gazebo's been there for many years. I think the last one that actually did it was Howard Brown, wasn't he the one that kind of put in some stuff to have it fixed the last time? I knew, and that was quite a few years ago.
Quite a few.
I think because we have, which one?
Yeah, 15.
Yeah. That's, that's what I'm like, I mean, it's right on the river, like, and that would be my worry, like, we invest in something, and then we're gonna have to keep fixing it, and, can we make that cooler space with more options of things to do, like, if we spent it, maybe not necessarily on like a wicked nice gazebo, but on some like other really cool stuff that maybe we hadn't thought of quite yet. I guess I think everyone wants to invest in the park, I don't think that that's really a question, I think it's like, how's the money best served and get the most bang for your buck, I think, and I don't know if like a gazebo that's the same size is necessarily it, but I mean, I don't want there not to be a gazebo there, but like, could that money get something super cool and allow us to do more things there?
Like a big stage with like
Yeah,
cement
like,
up to here and like have it 20 feet and like.
You better go and.
And that one going, that one's thinking.
I think our number's climbing a little bit from the
Yeah.
75.
Water's fun concert,
So,
That's nice.
Just what what's the plan?
That's,
Yeah.
I'm chasing the same.
Scout Eagles, it's a fairgrounds, it's on wheels.
I brought that.
And with the number of people that are coming out to do it, it's fantastic that we have a free, concert and things like that people can go and enjoy. But I mean, that's a lot of people. And I know you always see like those signs and it shows like a thermometer for fundraising, like, is that something that's even been considered, or is that something that really don't want to, like, people donating to like, we're trying to do this, like, I mean, with that many people coming through, I mean, even if people only give $5, like, that could substantially contribute to, a fund there, and it's not saying you can't come if you don't do that, but I mean, are we like looking at that? Cause that can be a great way to get some more money to do some of these cool things with that many people coming through. I don't know.
I think that. I think about it. If they were a nonprofit organization that were trying to raise money for something that's not otherwise attainable, I'd put a thermometer up beside the road. We had folks come to the music series and they took their proceeds and said, we're gonna put this towards the gazebo. 3, maybe 4 folks donated the money back to go towards that. I think if we're investing in town facility on town property, that it's probably best that the town pay for it and not go begging. A little bit, because then where does it stop? What else are we gonna do to say, oh, well, if you want this, are we just gonna stop funding the rec program and say, well, if you want this, put a thermometer up beside the road and you'll get new dugouts? Because that's popular, people like to give money to it. I think that there's gonna be that shared communal responsibility and investment in it, and we don't have the donor base for something like that to, I think, take off and really go at it. And maybe we do have the donor base, but we don't have the movement on it for people to want to get involved with.
I mean, if there was something that was out there going, I know I would put something in, but it wasn't something that was really made, as an option to anybody. I think that lots of people would, or businesses would sponsor things. I think that just because it's on the town property, I don't think that's a reason to sort of negate that, because not everyone, like I said, is a Norridgewock resident that was coming to these things, they were benefiting from it. So like, I don't think like it's out there like begging. I think it's fundraising. I mean, I think that's a smart way to keep getting people to do stuff that doesn't entirely have to be at the, the taxpayers. I mean, if we get all these people coming from other towns, why not like they don't have to do it, but like, why would we not? I don't know.
I don't know, like, it's a great idea, but I think like we're looking to do this sooner than later, and I don't know how many, people that we put in a bucket. How much.
How long it would take, not a full
You know?
funding, I just, like it's, we've had tons of donations, like companies doing stuff, and that's been amazing, but it's just something to kind of think about, knowing that we've got people coming from so many different places that aren't part of the Norridgewock community, like, is that something that we can look at to maybe do, they might come up, they've got a great creative, like, asset right here sitting there, and like, they keep coming up with new ideas, like, they might come up with something cool, and like, if they've got their bucket out there, now they've got $600, they don't have to come to us to like, well, we're gonna do this, we're gonna have like a, I don't know, puppet show come in. Like, but they get $600 that they can just do what they want with it at that point.
So are you feeling set on a gazebo?
Yeah, I mean, I think it just makes different stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I'm afraid if, I understand what you guys are saying about a stage or something like
Right.
that, but. When if you look at Azula Days, we're spread on top of space, so
Yeah.
put some other big structure there, we're gonna be either having to ask a vendor not to come. Or
Yeah.
potentially having to take some of our events that we're doing because
Mhm.
we've run out of space, which is
Yeah.
great. I mean, that's what we always look for, to be totally packed and have everything there that everybody can enjoy, but sometimes I think if we're adding another structure, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons we've gotten rid of our teepees, they're not coming, and some of the other things that we've talked about, try to condense the swing sets and those things to use the structure that we have there to give those space for not just one family to be down there to enjoy, but multiples, you know, because there's space for everybody to be in their own area.
Yeah.
No, that's kind of what we thought. It's kind of-
I'm okay with it, because again, it's to put it forward to see if the town is on board. Remind me, did we do this last year?
We didn't get it, we decided to pay correctly as a board.
Yeah,
And again, we're hoping the 75 is way up,
Mhm.
we're gonna do what we can and sharpen those pencils and really work with our resources to possibly. Bring that down, but again, we don't wanna bring something and give a vision out there and then say, oh, hi, we're back again, because. We're running short, we can only have half of it, I'm sorry.
An exact design and size, I'm sure will be finalized once we know that the voters are supported or not supported, right?
Yeah.
It's not like we're set on that design at that size.
I mean, I think we have to also look, Richard, correctly on, there's that entry for, the handicap accessibility, knowing where our swing set is now and that stuff. We'll have to look at that area down there for. That looks like it had quite a big. Back in the city for that, so. You know.
I have, what,
So is this
yeah.
a write down, like,
I'll just-
it's saying that it's a standalone article, does that mean that it's like on the ballot? That means that it goes to the floor. I feel like that is always messier, and I feel like people don't always voice what they really like feel, depending on who's sitting in that room. I feel like putting it on the actual ballot, people have like the privacy to look at it, think about what they want versus what, like, is my neighbor agreeing with me or not agreeing with me? I don't know. And more people vote on it that way. We have more people who come in and vote than they do. going
But
to
you have
town
more
meeting.
discourse and conversations when we do it on the full town meeting.
Answer question.
And on, I mean, the premise of it, I get it, because I agree with you when I said it earlier, it's, you know, but. If you believe that that's the mechanism to treat this, then we need to look at every other funding article so that people can vote their conscience. And do that in a voting group too, and then we just have a 40 article, you'll have a ballot, it's, you know, 3 pages and we'll just machine it. And allow people to vote their true conscience, we'll have
Well, we
public
did that,
hearings
we
here.
decided to have firefighters and that kind of stuff. It was kind of like a standalone separate.
Is this that controversial?
No, I don't know. Like, that's what I mean. Like,
It's a one, I think this is a one-time request from a group of volunteers. And it's not something with the firefighters or anything else, that's a recurring expense that trends upward and is a real solid commitment to the tax base. This is a one and done thing, and I think people will look at it and say, yep, I think it's a great idea, or, you know, it's a little too much. I don't think anybody's gonna say it's a bad idea. I think if anything, people will say, well, you know, the cost is. And.
so I guess I
nobody's
just
gonna
don't
look.
understand why it's not, it needs to be on the floor versus on like the ballot or something like that.
I'd be awful surprised you could vote it down.
I would be
What's that?
surprised if it got voted down too.
Either place. Either place.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I have no preference on which way it gets done, whether it's at town meeting or by the ballot, at your pleasure, really. It's gonna be a yes either way, so you just pick how you wanna see it,
I'm fine with it being a part of the,
town meeting or the ballot.
what is that thing called?
Warrant.
Warrant, thank you. Chucky?
The whole thing's the warrant, so do you want it on the floor of town meeting, or do you want it on a secret ballot?
The floor of town meeting.
Yeah, so there's a motion, is there a second?
That, is that easy?
Yeah, was that easy? Was a motion and a second to have this, discussed at town meeting, on the floor? All those, is there any discussion on that?
We already done that.
Okay, all right, all those in favor? Okay, that's everybody.
Does the board wish to make a recommendation that differs from your vote to place a warrant? So we've all voted to put it on the warrant at town meeting.
I
There
would,
will be a recommendation underneath that says select board recommends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I would have recommended put it on the ballot so that there were more voters actually voting on it because turnout. For me,
But
more
so
people
the,
are doing
the
it, but-
request that will go before the voters, it will say select board recommends approval or not.
we need another motion.
No, I'm just asking,
Oh,
does
yes.
anybody differ from this vote right here? Anybody opposed to raising appropriate $75,000? Okay, thank you.
selectmen approve.
Then we're good.
Thank you.
You laugh, you smile.
Yeah, right on. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate what you do.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
appreciate what you all are doing.
Oh, you got more.
You got a capital reserve number, you gotta sit back down.
You're not done. I thought we just-
I'm just going over here.
Musical chairs back.
You can't
No,
go.
your hair color looks different. Your hair color looks different on that side. So the Parks Committee submitted a request for $25,000 in their, committee request for capital reserve. I've reduced that to 20. We had 0 in 2023 and 2024, they were able to fund 10,000. And I pulled it back to 20 to align with other buildings. They obviously have a need, therefore a stronger capital reserve contribution given their structures. And the assets that they now oversee in their floor parks, so, if you guys have questions or they have comments about that. To make a recommendation on the capital reserve contribution,
So they asked for what, 25?
25.
But I thought that was because they were trying to save for the gazebo, and if they get the gazebo, wouldn't that negate the need for that much funding?
No, because they still have a
Other
building
parts.
in Usula Park, they have the docks in Usula Park, they've got the boat launch in Usula Park, they've got a playground in Usula Park.
The entrance.
If we do the entrance thing, what's the funding mechanism for that?
If the entrance
Probably a
is
mix.
in place, it's gonna be that federal funding, it'll
Okay,
be the residual of the federal funding package. Because it's gonna be in that shoreland area and that, like. The
so
person
that
picture
can pull
from that
directly
project.
from that.
No, and then you've got the building in Ashland Park, you've got the parking lot in Ashland Park. The lighting and all of those things, all those assets that these folks didn't have 5 years ago, that now if something jumps out or floats away. We're gonna bring their budget and ask them to replace it, or if something's damaged, we've got to fix it,
What was this year's?
10,000. I believe the request last year was 20. And through the process, it came to 2.
So are you looking for just
All right.
scatter,
Our recommendation, so we'll.
just for that one
What
part?
did you put it to?
I put it to 20.
So
This
double
budget
from last
committee
year?
donation.
They asked for 25, but you put it to 20?
I put it to 20. I looked at our building accounts with the exception of
I
5.
see it. Okay.
And anybody that had a building, I put that account to 20,000. To try to create some consistency, not devalue what they do or value the assets, but. To try to keep things proportionate. We learned the hard way, remember the tube that we just replaced the tunnel, $1,600.
For the what?
There was the tunnel on the playground that got cracked,
Yeah,
and so it was $1,600 to replace just a short section of that.
I'm too fat.
I don't know, I would almost go with 25.
is that a motion?
Yes, is it that easy?
A motion for 25 from the board? Is there a second?
It's a lot more than just one building.
It is, it is.
But like,
But 20 kept us in line with the others.
yeah, that's,
With the town office and with the parks.
But
Public
most of
Works
those are all-
building.
Most of those are all brand new things though.
yeah,
Those other buildings and everything on those other ones are pretty much
Yeah.
newer than these. So they're gonna increase in along the way, but.
What, so if we got, sorry, I don't know if this is my place to talk.
Please.
We don't use this money, right, and we get a lot of it, and we don't use it, it goes back into like a reserve, it's not like, or how does that go? I just,
It rolls back into the general
The
fund
75,000
yeah,
would be.
you use and then it lapses if you don't use it.
Right.
This allocation here goes into your reserve account and would stay.
And like builds year after year.
yeah.
so worst case, we have a bad crew that comes through with their trail guard. They decide to do some damage at Ashley Wing, they come through and, Al's Emery Square, you know, they do damage there. All that stuff would come through this if it's not covered under insurance, is that correct?
Yes.
But insurance would cover stuff like that though, wouldn't it?
They still have $1,000 up.
Yeah.
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 I just, the only thing like with the reserves is, I know that like with the fire department, we always know what's they plan on, like, what the expenditures that are coming
Yeah,
up.
but they break
to
stuff
plan.
all the time.
Yeah, no, but
That's
like, we
what
also
you
know, like, okay, this truck is gonna, we have to replace this truck in 3 years, we know how much that costs, and that's why we have to do it, and that's why we put all of that money into there. This, we've got brand new, if the gazebo goes through, we'll have brand new buildings. I mean.
But it's not just for buildings, right?
It's for a lot
For
of
the
things.
parks, yeah. And we went from nothing to 10 last year, and then to go to 25, I mean, like, that's, you
It's a
know.
big jump, okay,
That's a
so they
gigantic-
put as
it's
a motion on the
it's a
floor for
150%
25,
increase
does
over year-over-year.
anybody have an interest in seconding that motion? Then the motion would die for lack of a second. Is there another motion someone would like to make?
With that being
That
said,
maybe like
just
20. I don't
off the cuff, though, would it behoove us to lower the 75 up the reserve account so that it stays there instead of going back to the general fund? Anything under the 75 we don't use. If we appropriated 60 up the reserve account, I'm just thinking outside the box,
You're
Richard.
going backwards here, okay? You already cleared the 75.
No, wouldn't it behoove us to do it that way? Then it's there. And we pull from it if we needed to. If we didn't, it's there. If we
This
think-
might be a pivot you don't want me to take, but
Yeah, no, I'm just,
reduce the capital contribution. And then allocate the gazebo funds and unused money allocated towards the gazebo project would lapse into their reserve,
Yes,
as opposed to lapse into the general.
Which would be, same thing,
it's just words.
yes.
You can
Yes.
fix that with words.
and that's what I'm
Right.
asking. to
Can you
do.
say that again?
So if you raise and appropriate,
Thank you.
raise and appropriate, raise and appropriate $75,000
Mhm.
for a new gazebo.
Mhm.
Unspent appropriation
We're adding,
No,
To-
unspent.
to
But we're adding
lapse
that to the-
into their reserve account.
okay, cool.
So if they only spend 50,000,
Mhm.
good for them, that 25 will go into their reserve account. If they spend
Mhm.
75, well, they get nothing, that would lapse. But then you could lower.
And then make this
Right, and then we can change this number and,
20?
Is that a motion?
I'll second
Yeah.
20.
So there's a motion and a
Yes, it's a
second. for
motion.
yeah,
20.
I'm much more comfortable doing that. That way we're still putting money
As
into
in
that
what?
reserve account.
75K gazebo lapse to surplus,
Yeah.
lapse to reserve. And then 20 to reserve.
The motion and a second on the 20, any discussion on that? Seeing none, everybody in favor? Chucky, yep, that's everybody.
That's a good thing.
Thank you.
Well, yeah.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Now go come to town meeting and repeat.
Yeah, so be vocal to your
Right,
people around town,
yeah.
what you need.
Thank you
Thank
very
you all.
much. Thank you.
Are we talking about all the capital reserves tonight? Or is
Yeah,
this just a list of things we need to get to?
And you got that,
it'd be nice to get through all of them, but we can go back if you want to. Do you wanna keep going in capital reserves?
Kind of, I'm in that
Okay.
mindset.
Yeah,
I remember what they are right now.
The airport, I left it at $10,000. I don't want to get into the controversy of subsidizing the airport. So I recommended 10,000. Fire equipment and building, you have already addressed at previous meeting.
Yeah.
The library
Should have
reserve
the 20.
account, the library reserve account, the trustees requested 25. I reduced that to 20 to keep in line with other buildings. And the 25, I think, was intended, not to speak out of school, but because of a new library. Well, if we get a new library, I think the funding source for the majority of that library is gonna come from another source.
yeah, probably, that will get you,
That's why I recommend.
get the front
20.
steps built.
The public works equipment, it's a high number, but the cost of plow trucks and whatnot, the greater on the horizon, that's where we move. I'm recommending that, the 20,000, the public works building. We do have the old section, recreation, that's one there, if you want folks from recreation, we can get them in, but they requested 50,000, up from 10,000 last year. I am recommending 30,000
Oh, yeah, I
Where
remember
are you?
that.
at recreation. So the recreation committee, like the parks committee, has gone back and looked at what do we want?
Mhm.
And it's lighting, it's
Yeah.
improvements to the softball field, it's portable scoreboards and all that. And I get it, I appreciate it, and I love it. But that's a big, big nut to put into capital reserve, to achieve that. And when we started talking about projects, I think this better lines up with not just buying everything all at once. And we got, we have a, last night, the budget committee into the Parks just goes and does this, what about rec? And we did the drainage project for rec. And we did that out of surplus, things like that. So I kind of went happy medium, appreciating what it is for economic development and the list of priorities that they have.
Did they come up with it?
For things that they would like to do.
No, but the rec department.
The rec department asked for 50,000.
What'd they say, budget committee?
The budget committee approved 30, recommends 30.
And if they run short for a project, we could find alternate sources, correct? Whether it's lighting or something else they tried to do, I mean, probably specifically lighting. If they ran short for lighting, we could find avenues or something to
Yeah.
assist if need be. It doesn't have to be in that account.
All right, can you go through and tell us what the budget committee recommended?
The budget committee fully recommended my request.
Oh,
So I move that we appropriate the 30,000 for reserves for the rec fund.
There's a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Any further discussion?
I just, why are they the one that gets more? Like, why, we didn't do that for parks? I'd like to see it just
Progress,
consistent with the
progress.
20.
This is progress.
Just my 2 cents.
I think.
Okay.
to me,
Is that a question for me as to why I didn't number back to align with everything else?
No, I'm sure you maybe have, I mean, sure, yeah, tell me
I
why.
just went kind of meet them in the middle. I understand that there are hundreds of children in this community that are impacted by that program.
Mhm.
And I also understand and appreciate that, you know, lighting's nice to have, but our softball field is inferior. We
So-
have,
Okay.
we don't have a scoreboard that we could reasonably provide to softball. So in that fluffy sense, it's like equity.
Mhm.
So I didn't want to number it all back, knowing that they do have things that do mean things to people in the community. And that it's health and wellness, purely health and wellness for these kids, and they're probably not getting it otherwise, so. And the amount of money that they operate on, is pretty good.
And they don't have 75 grand being allocated to them at the town thingy, I guess, would be. Cause if that was,
No, well,
if like
right,
the
right,
extra money, like they could be going and putting on the floor too, we want extra 10 grand for lighting, but they're not, so, but. The park is, that's why I'm okay, cause I'm with you, like,
Okay.
keep it consistent, but that, you know, if we're gonna knock them down to 20. I would then say that they should also be asking us to put something to the floor to get them stuff. But they're not, so I'm fine with the additional there only because of that. That's because I know that they have a lot of things on the horizon.
Catch up, I think. on
Yeah.
That side of
I'm a
things,
sucker for
whereas
kids, so I mean. that
Well,
gets-
I am too, but I don't know, y'all made me a little more money conscious and I don't, I know, right? I'm just like writing checks. I think kids are gonna play on whatever we give
Oh,
them
for sure.
and have a ball.
100%.
And I don't think everyone's gonna come and watch music in Usula Park unless we make it really nice. You know what I mean? So that's where I'm like,
I'll give you that.
The only thing that I would say, like, I agree with that, but like with the lighting, kids got a lot more opportunity to be able to play more.
Well,
than
the
they did
lighting this
before.
year was a big.
It was
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
like the
I-
amount of
yeah.
time, because it gets so dark so quickly, and like there's so many kids we're trying to pack onto.
mhm.
It increased the amount of usability for that significantly, and like Richard said, the equity of it, like. The amount of money we dump into the calendar getting just boys baseball stuff, and the girls don't even have a scoreboard to know what it's like. As a parent sitting there, you're like, what goddamn.
They've been a little
like,
shafted for a long time.
It's, you know, like, there's definitely some like catch up there, so, you know, I would like it to stay the same, but like. As everyone else, but when this one, I understand, and if they didn't, then I would highly recommend that we put some on the floor, because they do need to get those things.
motion to go with the 30,000.
We
Set
have-
on,
Oh, yes, a motion and a second for the 30, we're just in discussion, any further discussion on that? So all those in favor of the 30, it's myself, opposed? One opposed?
With no disrespect to the recreation.
No, no.
That was only.
Keeping myself in check.
Right, which is fine.
So
You've done cemetery, the airport, 10,000.
Yeah, it's what's always been, right?
I make a motion that,
second.
okay,
That's perfect.
can we do it, are there
Do you wanna add?
Are there any on here that people are not in agreement with that the budget committee and the town manager recommended? Okay, can we do them in a lump sum then? Can you rattle them off?
So the airport, 10,000. Did we vote on fire equipment and reserve.
I believe we did,
We'll look into that.
but
Equipment,
there's no
110,
controversy.
fire building, 10, libraries, 20,000, public works equipment, 100,000, building, 20,000. Recreation, 30,000, roads, 750,000. The tax reval account, 25,000, the town office reserve, 20,000.
I move to approve as said.
Second.
Any further discussion on those? Seeing none, all those. in
Yeah,
favor?
there is. On the roads here, it says 358, now would you use some of the 750 for this year? Have you got some of that hid away for?
No, that 358 had to do with bills that got paid out this year after the deposit went in.
Okay,
And
never
it
mind.
was
Keep
residual
going.
projects in 23.
Okay, keep going.
Yep.
Okay,
Are those in favor?
Yep, that's everybody.
do we want to back up to the elected officials and have that conversation about stipends?
No, we can't change that.
Huh?
I mean, I'm not gonna vote for it. Does anybody else wanna raise your pay? Would you like to raise your pay?
No, sorry. It
Oh,
wasn't about
change your
raising
pay?
pay.
Oh, wait, because I'm like, I'm not gonna
I think it was stipends for the committees.
The discussion that came at the last meeting was
What?
about restructuring stipends, how they're paid.
Oh, okay.
Not the amount, it was, should they be paid per meeting? And it was tucked in at the end of your meeting and it said.
Some multi bastard brought that up.
So, you wanna get paid to be on the board, or you wanna get paid to show up?
Stop.
Well, someone.
This board is not an issue.
Correct.
Yeah, correct, but there's one multi, person that brought that up a couple of years.
Yeah, probably.
Because it was a planning board member that got paid full stipend for coming 3
Yes,
weeks.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
somebody that
It's probably that
And,
piece right there that you're paid to show up, right? So, I guess.
If you don't participate.
and that particular
Right.
planning board member
Right.
had never come in person.
Right.
We
So-
will not be talking about it.
Removing any individual, you know what I mean, but as the whole boards, I probably should be per meeting. How does that break down? Just that simple? Is that,
If you want to change the number, if you wanna keep the numbers the same and just break it down to a per meeting, that's easy enough for you guys, it's 24 meetings in a year, typically. If we cancel a meeting, you wanna get paid?
Well, if we cancel it, if they're planning on it.
The 4th of July, we never have a 4th of July meeting.
Is that $50 a meeting then? Or less?
I would say no, I don't
Yeah,
think the
right,
town
gotta
should
say
be
no,
spending
right?
money on, you know.
yeah,
Or could we just do it on the planning board? You don't have to do both, of them. You didn't have one on the planning board for years.
I think it has to be across all boards even.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it.
If you're gonna do it, it's everybody.
Well,
if
we
you-
gave the planning board raises and paid them more money, but we did do that with the select board, so we're not doing everything like the same.
No, no,
Don't have
it's,
to,
no,
I mean-
no, it would be just. bad.
How annoying is that for someone to keep track of
That's
and,
kind of what I was,
you
I was
know,
taking
it's
attendance.
not,
sheet of-
okay,
I mean, we have minutes, right?
yeah,
The minutes right at the top, list members there, members not. And I think you
I guess-
have to more seriously look at members excused.
For me, is that a habitual issue?
Yeah, if someone's got a
Some
legitimate
boards.
excuse.
Can I also ask another question? Is like increasing a stipend, does that attract? It would obviously attract more people. Does it attract more people that we want?
That's a difference of opinion.
Discussion.
You know what I mean?
Does increasing the pay help at the.
Cause
same
that's why I'm like, it should just be volunteer,
Most
cause then you park in the
officials
right
get
place.
paid, right? I mean, like, it's tough, it's like, it's both ways, you don't wanna sit on the board and be like, we should get more money for this, but like, in the same sense, like any other thing that you go out. You like campaign and get your signatures and you get elected to something, usually you get paid because it is time, and I know that the emails and the phone calls, and everything else, like, there is. You know, a certain onus and responsibility,
So
but maybe like our school board, and think of how many spots that we have there open on our other boards that we have no one.
school board gets paid $24 per meeting, I think.
Wow.
Plus mileage. The
Just
planning
show up.
board gets paid $500 a year per member. That was something that we've instituted since I've been here, much.
How many
in my
meetings do they
support.
have?
It depends, it really depends. One of the reasons why I recommended it was we were having trouble retaining people on the planning board, and that's not why you're there for the paycheck, I hope. But we asked them to know ordinances in and out, we asked them to be intelligent and critical of these applications, and they really hold a line that could cost us a lot of money. So it's nice if you can encourage people to want to be a part of that and have the best interest in it. We pay the tax assessors $500 a year, that's 3, maybe 4 meetings. So it's,
Why do we pay them?
it's inequitable,
Yeah.
no doubt,
Why
but
are they, like, why does that get paid?
it's always the way that's been.
Yeah, it's always been that way.
I would probably stems
Once for 3
from
meetings? Jesus.
the transfer of actual assessors here and an assessing agent.
Of course, years ago, they did it themselves before they hired someone like Donna to do it. That's how come it's like that,
That would- yeah, that would
because they
make
put a
more
lot of time into it.
Yeah.
That's how come it was like that, I mean. Or got like that, like,
Do we just wanna kick this down the road and I'll
Yeah.
work on
Yeah.
developing a proposal that we can look at
If you
in
will,
next year's
right,
budget?
right.
Cause I think there's merit to it, I think that a lot of people think that you should be paid, some people think you get paid too much, and then there's the participation factor.
obviously that.
Yeah.
You can't get the selectmen once filled, or the planning board filled, is not a lot of it.
But is $1,200 a year gonna fix that,
No,
you know, right?
I'm not here for the $1,200 a year, I think.
Cool,
No.
that's some savings. I'm gonna,
Jeez. Okay,
Yeah,
I
let's
will mark that down as something to work on.
Yeah.
The community position. We have the job description in the packet, you have the spreadsheet that I provided to you in the last meeting in your deck. I think everybody backed into the number before, and then once I started putting the full compensation package together, it was like, ooh, did that get away from us? My perception of that.
No, a little bit, yeah, for sure.
but again, it would go to the town, right? And the town would determine if they want to invest that amount of money in this type of position.
So we met with the budget committee last night, they did not wanna get into this, cause they thought it'd be lengthy, you guys just squashed it. So, you know, in the sense of valuing everybody's time at the table last night, that's what happened. I built this into my proposed budget at 75% this year, and that leaves you with your final number being plus 4,000 over last year. Now you know that the price, this is a recurring increasing cost, so that's what you need to weigh out. If you don't approve this, or you wanna modify it in any way, then I would strongly recommend that you go back and you review the use of revenues. That are used to offset taxes, because there are revenues, quite frankly, that are leveraged to be able to support this position.
Where does this, so it shows up in your budget, is there at any point in the warrant that it's like clearly outlined for people to see that we are, or do they have to like go look through the budget?
So no, this is gonna be a standalone,
Okay,
as I see it, whether it's, I think Todd has advocated before the board before. That it should be a referendum question, as the firefighters were. In the spirit of equity and consistency.
and what does that mean?
Yeah, vote on it by ballot,
Okay,
because it's one of those,
It's also consistent with your comment a couple topics back where you said the gazebo is like a one-time capital improvement. Do we wanna do it, do we not wanna do it? Whereas, the firefighter thing, for example, is you get hit every year, a little more and a little more and a little more, right? And the community development position would be that ongoing commitment to the tax base. So I think it would be very consistent for that reason.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Got the motion? I'll second.
Yeah,
Motion and a second.
what is my motion?
To put it as it is,
As Richard's recommendation,
Yeah.
at the 75%.
oh, you're gonna apply for it?
And add, no,
I thought you were shovel
She
snow.
can't take,
I don't
she
want
can't
to
take
shovel
that,
snow.
she can't take that pay cut.
I'll do it for free, no.
There we go. There's the-
We just saved a lot of money tonight. I'm giving up
Thank you so much.
my yearly stipend, she's doing this job for free.
And does that include having it as a referendum question, my
Yes.
motion? Okay.
yeah.
So motion and second, any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that's everybody.
Okay, a recommendation of the board on the referendum question, it requires that it's listed on the ballot. Are you in favor of adopting this position?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
If it works, if it doesn't work, then we won't, be. Then next year or the year after, it's right.
Thank you. Then that brings us on to revenues. So. That should be towards the very front of your back. Page two.
I had a trouble finding the other
This
one.
last one,
Yeah, pretty much. So the revenues about, as I presented it, are built in each of your department articles. It includes excise tax, and offset public works, it includes miscellaneous fees that come through admin, it includes the Mercer fire contribution, and fire department. Those are all
in the back.
structured into this.
I think he lied.
Are
I
they
think
made
it's in the
back?
back. I think I saw it near the Capitol.
You know, I'm not usually one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second from the back, not second from the front.
So all of those things are, I apologize, all of those things are in the budget. That are kind of built in as we've reviewed each department to see the cost of the department. There's not, honestly, there's not a ton that generates from the departments, and admin is 123,000 in revenues. Fire department at 78,900 is based upon the 17% contribution. Public works, 720,000, that's excise tax revenue. Code enforcement generates a little bit, first part dividend estimated 13,000. And really what comes down to this is the host community fees. The use of waste management's payment to the town, and how much we want to use to reduce the tax rate. Well, I recommended 1.075, and that is what brought out my number to be about 4,000 over last year. Now yours will be a little bit more than that because you've added things in the budget. But that's gonna be, what are they at 25? Dollars. An increase of 25,000. On your total municipal budget, so, that's really the number that's up for discussion. If you want to increase that, you can increase that.
How much of that, how much of those post fees are we consuming right now?
So I'm. So year to date, we have received 1.34 million. And I've got one more month left to come. Last year, in 2023, we received 1.4 million. And of that 1.4 million, we had budgeted. I believe an offset of 700,000. In 2024, we budgeted 875. So we budgeted 875, that's what we'll allocate. And so now we're putting already about 500,000 in the bank.
And we're at our top rate except for,
You're getting CPI, and then what's also expected in 2025 is the increase in volume based upon the new facilities.
Did the budget committee get to this?
The budget committee declined revenues, until they got the total picture. We had the same discussion about if the community position didn't get moved forward in the recommendation, then revenues would very likely shift.
Now, last year's like 550,000 out of that. And designated funds to,
To reduce taxation.
yeah.
Yep.
you know, I'm comfortable with that. I feel like we're leaving enough of a buffer there. And with the extra coming in, we'll even have more of a buffer so that we're not consuming, you know, 80% of that.
I'll move to approve it as stated here.
The town manager's requests.
Yeah.
Second.
Motion a second. Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's everybody.
You don't get any bet money anymore, you got that buried or something now.
The betting money, doesn't get counted as a,
Revenue anymore.
doesn't count as revenue. It's been miscounted as revenue since betting came into play, but it strictly reimburses our lost revenue. Our lost revenue, we tax on it. Taxpayer only pays so much and the state pays the balance of it, so it's not, it's just making us whole. It's
Okay,
not incremental revenue. Yep. Okay, so that moved us through that. Then we're on to the undesignated surplus, and this is kind of always a swag. That should be the very last page.
yes.
Of the deck, and that shows you our position as of, you know, today on an estimate basis. We won't have the total audited amount until the 14th of February. So we've always kind of said, okay, what are we approximating? What's our position gonna be? So the responsible thing is to keep 3 to 6 months of expense only in your surplus. So right now, before unspent balances lapse, excess revenues go in, we have 1.9 million. And so that leaves you 500,000 over your 3-month expense, your loan. Now, funds are gonna go in. So I think that you are safe to renew the 550 of last year, up to 550.
So right now, there's 2.7, it takes 6 months, it takes 2.9 to run it, right?
Yeah,
I'm looking at that.
Yeah, time motion checking.
Oh, yeah.
Motion and a second, any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, that's everyone.
If budget gets to that, are they holding off until? We are not.
budget committee is going to review the rest of your package, because you just buttoned up your budget. They're gonna review it on the 21st, it'll come back to you on the 22nd. And hopefully we're in a position where we could probably sign the warrant that night. Barring anything unexpected coming in. Two quick things, if you have any last minute suggestions for Spirit of America, please get them to me. The other one is in the front of your deck, keeping that quiet, that's a recommendation in the for the dedication of the town report. I think it's a worthy and well deserved nomination, so I would just recommend my consent that we would move forward with that, as I already have the volunteer drafting it for us, so it should be a good write-up.
So
So,
when do you have to have that stuff all put together for the printers for the town report?
I have pledged it to the printer the first week of February,
Because they have to,
because I have to edit.
because the town report's supposed to be out, what, 10 days before town meeting?
Is 7 or something like that, but I like to, it's gonna be out the week of the 20th, it'll be out on the King week. That's the best that we can do because of the audit. I'll have the whole thing there and proof, waiting for the auditor to give me those 8 pages. So I'm almost there, I probably got 15 more pages to go, we'll look at your report at the next meeting.
That's one more motion, folks.
Move to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Oh, look.
Any discussion? All those in favor, that's everybody.